up, everybody? It's your boy Moon616 here, and I'm back with another episode of Funky Fridays. This is episode 22. Sorry it's been a while, but I did explain I'm really busy, so but I am going to try and fit this in today. So for week 22, decided to do a record that I've been listening to recently quite a bit. And it's an album that, in my opinion, is one of those truly overlooked albums. I guess you could say it's underrated, but in my opinion, it's more overlooked than even underrated because, you know, an underrated album would be something that does get talked about a little bit, you know, but just doesn't get the full props. This album seems to have been, like, completely overlooked. I don't know what it was. I know this album came out about 3 years after their debut album, which is a classic album that might have something to do with it. And also the name change probably has a lot to do with it. And also the time in hip-hop. This came out in 1998, and, you know, everything was just starting to really change at that time. And I'm talking about the Cocoa Brothers' The Rude Awakening album. If you're not familiar with the Cocoa Brothers, they're previously known as Smith & Wesson, and they're also known as Smith & Wesson once again. This is the only album that they ever dropped under the name Cocoa Brothers. The name change was due to the fact that Smith & Wesson sued Tech and Steel for, you know, copyrighted the name or whatever. So they were forced to drop the Smith & Wesson name and change their name because they were still under Priority Records and whatever. I'm not entirely sure why they're allowed to use Smith & Wesson now. Maybe it's because it's on their own label. I don't really know. But like I said, this is the only record that they ever put out under their name. And they're back to Smith & Wesson. And I do contribute the overlookedness of this record to that a little bit. But to the album, you know, this is one of those albums that, to me, is just a true fucking gem. It's a fucking gem. Like, you can't say anything else about it. You know, I love Smith & Wesson's first album. The Shining is one of my favorite albums. I'm a big fan of Boot Camp Click. I always have been. And this album right here, I always tried to give props back in the day. No one would ever really fucking take it, you know? Now, the producers on this record aren't like the most standout producers. You do have Mr. Wolf and the Beat Miners on here. There's a couple tracks produced by the Beat Miners. And that's really about it. But overall, the album is fucking fantastic. For coming out in 1998 when the hip-hop scene was totally changing, sound-wise and stuff, they kept it true. You know, they have this kind of very boom-bappy, kind of laid-back sounds. Lyrically, Tech and Steel have never really been, you know, on the highest degree, but their shit works. You know, this is more tales about the streets and drugs and, you know, bitches and hoes. But they do it well. You know, they don't overextend their welcome with those type of lyrics and songs. The very first song on the album they listen to right now is called Off the Wall. And this song addresses their whole legal issues with the Smith & Wesson thing, and they talk about their name change and stuff like that. And, you know, just basically one day they're just sitting around and they all of a sudden just receive a letter in the mail saying, we're suing you for copyright infractions or whatever. So they were obviously forced to change the name. So you got that song, and then you got One on One, which is the third track on the album, which was previously released on the Soul in the Hole soundtrack. So if you've ever heard the Soul in the Hole soundtrack, yeah, that song's on there. So it was actually recorded the year before. Fucking fantastic song. You do have the very first single on the album, I believe, was Black Trump featuring Raekwon of the Wu-Tang Clan. Fantastic song. Just everybody does their thing on that one. It's fucking great. Bucktown, USA was another single on the record. It's another awesome, awesome track. And Spanish Harlem, I believe they have a video for that song. Don't quote me on that, but I think they do have a video for that song. But yeah, the overall product of this record, it's fantastic. We got 17 songs, 3 skits, so basically 14 songs of just pure goodness, man. This one I can listen to top to bottom. It doesn't really have any, you know, standout blips in the album. There's a few choruses on the album that I could probably do without, but, you know, that's whatever. It's not really the biggest deal in the world. yeah, it's just a great hip-hop record, and madly overlooked. And you know, this is one that I just never see anyone talk about or even own. I know people own Smith & Wesson's later stuff, but this one, just an odd time, I guess. And you know, it's interesting, I was looking in the booklet before I was doing this video. You know, back in the day when people used to have, like, you know, actual booklets in their albums, you know? Yeah, you don't see this very often anymore. You got all the gear and stuff like that, and all the credits and pictures and shit. But yeah, anyways, I was looking at here, and they've got the Duck Down releases to come, and I was reading them over, and it's funny, because pretty much none of these albums ever came out. Now, the One Nation album, that was the album that the Boot Camp was doing with Tupac, I believe. Of course, that never came out. The Fab Five album, which I was always so stoked for when I first got this record. I was like, oh, really? The Fab Five album's coming out? Never came out. OGC album called When It Rain It Pours. I don't believe that ever came out. Buckshot's album, The Nights. Shit like that. It just kind of got me interested. I was like, yeah. But, you know, it just gets me thinking about all the albums from the 90s and stuff that had these, you know, these advertisements in their albums for albums that never came out. But whatever. Boot Camp Click, the whole Duck Down thing, I'm a big fan, so can't hold it against them. But yeah, this is one-on-one from the Soul and Hole soundtrack. But yeah, I highly recommend this album. If I had to rate this album, I would give it a solid 4 out of 5. 4 mics out of 5. It's just good from top to bottom, and I can't say enough good things about it. You know, it's got a perfect vibe throughout the whole record. It never really changes at all. You can tell the producers did a great job on this, or they did a good job picking their beats for this album, anyways. But yeah, one of the most overlooked albums I can possibly think of. Overlooked and underrated, but yeah, definitely check this one out. I'm sure this is readily available online. You can probably get this one for a couple bucks, really. I'm sure it's not out of print or anything, so. But yeah, I want to give a big shout out to Jason vs. Bosco and my homeboy Klive Kraven, and everyone else that's been, you know, bugging me. Bring back the Funky Fridays. Bring back the Funky Fridays. Here you go. Here's episode 22. Like I said, I'll try to do this when I can. I'm not going to even try to give timelines on when I can get them out. It just all depends on on my schedule and stuff. So, but check this out. Amazing record. Love it. Moon616 signing off. Thanks for watching, and subscribe and leave comments if you heard the album or just have some thoughts on it. Peace out.